This is the last game in the 1500 point tournament series of battle reports that have come through, and I'm playing Orcs and Goblins. I'd eked out a small win in game one and a very small win in game two, but this one for poor Dave turned out to be a massacre. So at the bottom, you can see I've got my sisters, the small unit on one side of the hill, the large unit on the hill, two units of archers that are the chaff to sort of really just there for deployment purposes and to add a few more bows for not much. And then I've been able to like line up all of my flying big hitters on the right flank. For Dave, he has a Doom Diver, Snotling Pump Wagon, three trolls, a big unit of Night Goblins with a couple of fanatics, a big unit of Orcs. The mage is in the Night Goblin unit. The War Boss is in the Orc unit. A giant Boar Boys and Wolf Riders on the right flank. So I think he got a bit squashed in on that right side, and I was able to take massive advantage. So early on, I took a couple of bows, took down two Boar Boys, and forced them to Fabigo back through those units, so they weren't at the front anymore, taking away counter charge, which well, it didn't take away counter charge, but it took away the danger of a big counter charge and through the supporting attacks. So for me, what happened, which was incredible, was I was able to use sort of the large target rules to get an optimum range of charges. You can even see like everything just went right for me. Miasmic Mirage got off, Glittering Road got off. I'm able to send in the Griffin as a large target to see over, so he's able to get into the back and fit his base in there. The mage, the giant's a large target, so my Skycutter mage is able to get in here, and my basic Skycutter is able to hit the Wolf Riders. So they were a series of ideal charges. I was pretty happy with the ability of the mage to take on this giant for lots of reasons. It was out of 24 range, so I was going to get this free rain on Doppelganger. Incredibly, what's ended up happening, and I guess there's a little bit of finicky stuff here to make sure you do things in the right order to sort of maximize you'd think to maximize barrel test, but the biggest issue is just making sure that your units don't trip over each other with the stupid pursuit rules that exist. So what I've done is I've just sent the Griffin first. They did get to countercharge a little bit, which is a great little rule and very thematic, I think, and adds a lot of play to the game. But the Griffin is able to pop these guys and overrun out of the way, which takes them outside the range of this or the warbows and behind this house. I'm then able to send the mage, who's somehow and I roll, I think, quite well in this game too, rolls two impact hits up on the giant, like gets through two. I get four impact hits. Two of them get through on fives, escape the regeneration roll. So I've already got two wounds in. I clear Doppelganger, only roll a three on the Doppelganger hits, but roll two sixes and a five out of the hits. So there's two Monster Slayers, smash the giant, send the mage forward as well to get it out of range of any shooting, and then send this Skycutter, who I can't remember if it kills the wolves to a man, but breaks them anyway and pursues. So on the right-hand side, you can see that like I end up with pretty much an optimal set of the first turn. The game is, I wouldn't say over on the first turn, but I've certainly got everything I wanted, which is on the right-hand flank. I've destroyed all of his sort of punchy fast units, and I'm able to orient my troops back into the middle. And I've got this wizard. His wizard's here. I can't tell. I think I get back into 24-inch range, but I'm able to use things like column and stuff here without much regard for having to worry about that dispel range. So on the other side, the flank, the sisters do their work. So I'm able to use the mass of attacks on the trolls. It takes a while to knock them down, but I've got Ruby Ring too, so negating that regen and ultimately get, I think, it down to one troll, one wound. So even my 5-unit archers are able to take it out somewhere here in the middle. The Snotling Pump Wagon rolls a double six to move into on the extreme flank to begin with, but these sisters are able to roll very well and just drop it in one hit. I think I rolled a number of sixes on the to wound rolls. So even with the small unit of sisters knocking them down. And I'm able, because of that sort of range supremacy, to then just start whittling away this Night Goblin unit with really, I think that was a better use of points than going for this Orc unit and its toughness 4 and better armor. So really, it's turning into a bit of a massacre. Dave's able to eventually get his unit Night Goblins, his Fanatics out. They don't make it. I think they needed to roll. I can't remember what they needed to roll, but they survive anyway. But they weren't able to make it the full distance on the first go. I had a choice to sort of move my Handmaiden out or even to safety and thought there's no point. I can just keep blowing away at this Night Goblin unit, which I did. And like there's a little sneaky thing to just exit the Handmaiden to save some points. But even though he rolled a 6, he did kill 6 sisters with one fanatic. It didn't do a lot of damage, and you can see by now I'm whittling down this unit of Night Goblins to 4 on the end. And Dave, in an attempt to score some points, is able to take down this last archer with Vindictive Glare. So that was 50 points for him in the end. The last thing of consequence that sort of happens in the game is I keep the Griffin safe from the Doom Diver that's sort of bouncing around here, but I'm able to send all 3 Skycutters into the front of the Orc unit. To begin with, the Mage takes down the Champion. The other 2 do enough damage to Probigo the Orcs, and then able to, luckily for me, he rolls greater than 2 inches, so I'm able to follow up, pursue more to the point, with another round of impact hits and challenge out his war boss with my doppelganger mage. So it gets through his level 4 dispel, but in this instance I roll 10, and I think I end up doing 6 wounds to the war boss overall, and Dave calls it at that point, and I get a massive victory. I think 1,750 points to 50 in the end. So really the takeaways for me are having threat supremacy on that right flank. What I mean here is that, like, the range, my guys have a 19-inch max charge range. And you got to think, like, rolling high on the charge is better than you think. It's 30% to roll 6, it's 55% to roll 5. So if you've got Warband or other things that give you rerolls, you've got a pretty good chance of hitting that 5. And in some games, you're just going to have to go for the 6 to get in there. And you're going to pull it off more often than you think, I believe. I've seen a lot of long charges get off, and people don't realize that they're probably, like wheeling, the odds of you hitting them are higher than you think. So if you're looking at Swift Stride plus the max 6 on your charge, you can, like, 20-inch charges are not unheard of. And you're forcing that terror check at the start as well if you've got a large target with terror. So you've got to be more careful. If you've got the longer charge range, which I had, I was able to stack that flank. And while Dave will say he probably made a mistake with having his units on that side, I don't know what options he had, because he didn't have enough range fire to stop me from deploying in a way where I'm going to get, like, probably 2 to 3 of those big flyers out on his threat units. So it was very easy for me to maintain those ranges, and unlike the other games, without anything to get in the way, I was able to just go straight at them, and I felt very confident I was going to win all of those combats. The large target rules really helped in this game. So not just offensively, where I was able to hit that giant with enough space to spare, but on top of that, the Griffin being able to go over the top and see the unit behind was really helpful. As I've sort of said in this series, the pursuit rules are a mess, and they really don't benefit the attacker whatsoever. And I think we're starting to see defenders manipulate for Vigo a lot, but it doesn't feel good, the pursuit rules. I know there's a lot wrong with skirmishes. There's things that you could do to improve magic, or the way that large units and they can accumulate wounds and saves. Even these large blocks of poison archers are a problem in the format. But I really think the pursuit rules have the cleanest, most palatable fix for the community. I think if you win combat by a lot, you both roll off and that's it. Like, aren't they being hacked down at the same time as they run forward? It is a complete debacle. And so in this game, I was able to manage that really well and did things in a way that was not about killing my opponent, but just positioning for the next turn, which ended up being I could come back and get that Orc unit probably a turn earlier than if I'd end up wedging myself into each other's backsides, which you can see in the first video that I ran on this. So yeah, large targets, good and bad. I think with the poison blocks, they're becoming a lot worse, but at the same time, if you've got flying and you're a large target, or you're trying to send flyers into large targets, worth knowing how that works in all of its incarnations. Finally, we've talked about it a bit on this channel, but The secret to getting spells off at the lower levels or even at all is just being outside dispel range. The level 4 bubble is a huge thing in the game, and being able to just contest every spell at somewhat 50-50 odds is a big deal, and you can't rely on getting things off. It's sort of very sort of random what gets off in that bubble with some armies. And I think when you're weighing in things like Oaken Stave and Infernal Puppet, the defender has a lot of advantages at the higher level with getting spells off. So I think that in this sense, riding a flank, getting like all of my spells went off because I was outside. Like the high elves with that reroll, they are that strangely, I thought thematically they're probably a reroll to dispel, but the reroll in the attacking, which was always a bit more of a dark elf thing, is a big deal for them because Mirage and Doppelganger are format defining spells that without that reroll and inside a dispel bubble, you're probably looking at less than 50% odds in the end. So yeah, it was a big deal. Just being able to slam a Doppelganger in and the wild variants of rolling a 3 and then getting the 6s, but even just getting Crystal Column off all the time, being out of dispel range, for that to be remains in played at a higher value was something that was very helpful in this case and made it that it was a route a lot earlier than it needed to be. So there you go. One more tactics video or you've seen the tactics video for this already, but we're finished the tournament, ended up on 3-0, a pretty good result for the Skycutter list. And I'll probably have more to say on that as we go on from here. Thanks for watching.